So, J. Ruud, what lovable book are we talking about today?
Well, Stacey Margaret Jones, I'll give you a hint. The Pilgrim's Progress.
So it's not Pilgrim's Progress.
No, that would be a little too much of a hint.
All right, I'll need another hint. Welcome to Between the Covers, the weekly podcast in which author J. Ruud shares one book from his list of the 100 most lovable novels in the English language each week as he builds that list in rank order. And I, author Stacey Margaret Jones, ask him questions about the book and then make him rank the books through the sheer force of my will. All right, so every week he gives me hints. So let's see if I can guess the book, and then I get a hint 1B, which is, have I read this book?
I think you have. If you haven't, you know the story pretty well.
Okay. Hint number 2, please.
Hint number 2, Theodore Lawrence.
I have something in the back of my mind. If I had a couple hours, I might be able to think of it.
Dig it out.
Okay, hint number 3.
Hint number 3. This should be the giveaway.
Yeah, that you say that to pre-shame me when I don't know it.
Marmee.
Oh, goodness gracious. It's Little Women
It is indeed.
by Louisa May Alcott. I have not read it, but it's in my TBR.
All right, then.
And I am going to, it's on my priority list for 2026.
Okay.
In fact, I might read it and Bleak House and a presidential biography, and that might be all I get done in 2026.
Well, there's a lot of pages in there.
That's respectable. That's respectable.
Respectable.
I love a long book because, you can't add on to your list fast. But once you get into a book, you just want to stay in it. If it's good, you just want to stay there. So,
yeah.
All right.
It's a good one.
So this is a great time of year to do Little Women because doesn't it have kind of a holiday or?
It's in 2 volumes. The first volume begins on Christmas Day.
That's why, because the movies have a Christmas feel.
Yeah.
And I think Greta Gerwig's came out around Christmas.
And the first volume actually ends on the following Christmas Day.
Oh, okay. So there's holiday. And also, just thinking of the family, it's a cozy vibe, like Christmas. All right. So before we move into some of our standard questions, we've added a standard question at the beginning, which is two-parter. When did this come out? What year did this come out?
The first volume came out in 1868. It was so popular that Alcott's publisher basically demanded the second volume, which she cranked out pretty quickly, and it came out in 1869. So 68, 69.
Was the second volume really conceived as part, is it like a 2-book set, or is it one book in 2 distinct parts?
It's one book in 2 distinct parts.
Because that is,
as it turned out.
Those are different reading experiences.
She originally did not conceive of it as
a
2-volume book.
Oh, okay.
But it turned into that.
And before we move on to my next question, did she write it after the Civil War, or was she writing it during? Do we know?
She wrote it in 10 weeks in 1868.
The spirit moved her.
Yeah. Well,
Jeez.
The spirit and the publisher who said, write a girl's book. And she didn't want to write a girl's book, but she said, all right. And so she wrote the first 12 chapters, and she showed it to her publisher, and they both agreed it was really dull. And then the publisher gave it to his daughter, and she thought it was the greatest thing she ever read. So she continued to write the dull book, and it came out and was so incredibly popular that she had to write another dull book to finish it.
How long is it when you read the whole work?
When you read the whole thing.
That's one reason I haven't picked it up is it's kind of thick.
Yeah. in the edition that you have, in fact, it's 556
Okay, so
pages.
That's not great. That's not Middlemarch or anything, or Gone with the Wind or anything.
They are very large pages with very small print.
Oh, okay.
I think the original publication was 760 pages or something like that.
Okay, so it's long.
Yeah. It was published in 1880 with both volumes together as a single novel.
Okay. And before we go into our other questions, then, I just wanted to mention that as a writer, I think it's really interesting when sometimes you get a prompt that you don't care about and you write some of the best stuff you've ever written, because when you write about things that you're like, I'm going to write about this because I have something to say and I really care about it. It can be constraining or didactic, or, you don't know how to write about it. But when you have a prompt that you're not invested in, the things you're interested in come out as you work with this kind of surface subject matter.
Yeah.
And you're freer because you're not like, oh, I have to do this, I have to say this. I've always found that with poetry, that some of the poems I've written that I like the most were just from some prompt where I was like, well, stupid. So that's my writing tip for the week. All right. So who else likes Little Women? Let's do the high points.
Well, let me say first that it was kind of a surprise hit for both the author and the publisher.
Well, yeah, since she didn't even want to write it.
Yeah. But it has not been out of print in the more than 150 years since it was published. And generations of women have grown up and been inspired by the four March sisters.
Yes.
Jo particularly, who's really the main character, inspired Helen Keller. Mm-hmm. And Hillary Rodham Clinton was inspired by Jo March. So was Simone de Beauvoir.
Oh, I love Simone de Beauvoir. Oh, yeah.
Gloria Steinem, Gertrude Stein, J.K. Rowling, Margaret Atwood, and probably every aspiring woman writer of the past century and a half.
That's quite a range. That's interesting.
But it doesn't appear on a huge number of 100 greatest novels lists, especially those that are put together by male critics.
Oh, right. I forgot about who was making the lists.
It's on the Guardian's 2015 list of the 100 best novels written in English, and the Observer's similar list from 2003. But you're more likely to find it on lists that were put together by readers who chose their own favorites. So you do see it on Penguin Classics list of the 100 greatest novels recommended by their readers. It's 81st in that list. It was ranked as number 18 in the British Public's Big Read survey, 2003. Number 8 on PBS's Great American Read survey. It was 7th on Bookman's 100 favorite novels of librarians.
Oh, we love that list.
And more narrowly defined, you see Little Women as number 17 on the BBC's 100 greatest children's books of all time. Number 4 on the Children's Literature Association's 11 best American children's books of the past 200 years. Mm-hmm. And on Good Housekeeping's 100 best books to read by women authors, Little Women ranked as number 8.
Yeah. It seems a little long for a children's book, but I guess maybe I'm discounting kids.
Well, again, I think as was the case with, say, Treasure Island or Watership Down.
Call of the Wild.
And even Call of the Wild, which is definitely not a children's book. It's probably been passed over by a lot of people because they think of it as a children's book. It's not really a children's book. Well, I shouldn't say that because, as I mentioned, it was the publisher's kids who liked it the most.
Well, that's interesting. And I think probably I'm thinking of kids who are reading, extended chapter books before scrolling, before screen time, where, like I said, for myself, once you get into a book, you want to stay in it. And if you like the March Sisters, you're just going to stay there and see what they do. So that's interesting.
I know that my sisters read it when they were probably tweens age, kind of.
Okay. All right. Well, can you do the down and dirty summary?
Let me try. Little Women is a Bildungsroman, a coming-of-age novel that has 4 girls who become women in the course of the novel. It's episodic. It's in 2 volumes. And in style, it's realistic, which was unusual for a girl's book at the time.
Was she, Harps of Glory. That was very good because I was like, he's either going to nail it or I'm going to be looking at my watch in 20 minutes laughing and saying, stop with the down and dirty summary. You did it because you can't, if it's episodic too, you can't cover everything. All right. So what makes this lovable to you? Since, as you mentioned, a lot of lists made by dudes didn't include it, but you are including it.
Well, Little Women used to be taught in schools sometimes.
For what age?
I imagine like the tween age.
Wow. I cannot imagine a school now that would ask tweens to read a 500-page book.
They might have just focused on the first volume or something.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that they did. I'm just saying it's different now. They may not do that.
No, they don't do it anymore. It's been decades since it was taught in schools because the excuse was boys won't be interested in it.
Oh my God.
Which is really, and that's fascinating to me because no boys' book has ever been taken out of the curriculum because girls wouldn't be interested in it.
No, of course not. Because the powerful class gets to do whatever interests them, and the people below them in the power structure have their own interests plus the interests of those above them, right? So like in South Africa, we learned that Black people, and as they say, not me, colored people in South Africa often speak 11 or 12 languages, right? Because they speak their own, they know their friends, right? In community, there's a lot of different native languages, right? But then they also speak Afrikaans and English because they speak the languages of the power structure, right? But the white South Africans probably speak 1 or 2 languages because they don't speak the languages of the people below them in the power structure. Yeah. And this is what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Off soapbox, returning to chair.
Well, it does seem to me that if boys plan to have a wife at some point,
some boys will,
or a female partner, or at any time in the future might actually have daughters, it could be a good idea for them to know what women might think about things.
Well, or just women colleagues or a woman that you like go to school with or are friends with or... Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and one of the main strengths of literature is that it helps you develop empathy.
Right.
So it's important to read things about people who aren't necessarily like you.
Right.
That you might come across, as one might come across a woman on occasion.
One might. But I will tell you that your list is lovable novels, not novels that are good for you if you want to be a participant in society. So why did you put this on your list instead of just saying, well, I'm glad I learned that stuff about women, but I'm moving on to books I enjoy reading?
Well, I mean, I enjoy reading books about people who are not like me. So that's not just a good for you thing. It's also an enjoyable thing. But another enjoyable thing about this book is its realism. It comes in the mid-19th century.
Victorian era.
Yeah, but in America, it's post-Civil War America,
Right.
realism is becoming the style in literature. And before Little Women, you don't see realistic kinds of portrayals. They're sort of sentimental. They might be fantasy kinds of things.
Or prescriptive.
They definitely prescriptive. I mean, the most popular book for children when Louisa May Alcott was growing up was probably Pilgrim's Progress.
Oh.
And in the book...
I would not put that on a list of books for kids.
Well, it gives you a Christian lesson.
I know, it's didactic.
The March sisters' father, he's not home on the Christmas that begins the book. He's off in the Civil War.
Right.
Where he's...
I remember that.
He's actually a chaplain because he is a pastor.
Right.
And it's never mentioned what denomination he belongs to. It is set in what seems to be Concord, Massachusetts.
Right.
And so in all likelihood, he's a Congregationalist pastor or possibly a Presbyterian or maybe even a Unitarian. But in some way, he's a Calvinist.
Well, I was raised in the Congregational church, so this will be interesting to me if that's his persuasion.
Pilgrim's Progress is a Calvinist allegorical story.
Yeah.
The hero's name is Christian. Wonder what that means. He forsakes his family, actually, at the beginning of the book because he realizes the most important thing is for him to be saved, for his soul to be saved, and he goes off on his spiritual journey. And he meets all kinds of people who have names like Mr. Worldly Wise Man, or he goes through Vanity Fair, which is it's basically the popular place for people who want to be in society and to become important in society, to buy the things that they want to have. So it's allegorical, but it is kind of entertaining.
I've read part of it. I didn't have a big response to it.
I remember when I was practice teaching my last semester as an undergraduate in a high school English class. And I was teaching the British literature course, and I had to assign a part of Pilgrim's Progress. And I told the class beforehand, this is really didactic. It's not something that you're probably going to like much, but this was very popular in this time. Anyway, when they came to class the next day, they thought, this is the greatest thing I ever read.
Wow.
They thought it was amazing.
Well, you love it when that happens.
Kind of cartoon-like,
It usually goes the other way where you're like, you're going to love this. And they're like, oh, my God, I couldn't get through it.
So I learned that, it's a good way to tell them.
Yeah, interesting.
What might be interesting is to tell them it's not interesting.
There you go.
But anyway,
under-promise and over-deliver.
It was extremely popular at the time. And probably Louisa May Alcott read it as a child. And she has the March sisters read it as well. In fact, the head note to the novel is a passage from
Pilgrim's Progress. So it was obviously like foundational for her.
Oh, yeah. And Jo wants to be a writer. She writes these plays. And one of the plays she puts on that they spend a lot of time working on is Pilgrim's Progress.
Yeah, sure.
And several chapters early in the novel allude to the Pilgrim's Progress. The first chapter is called Playing Pilgrim. Chapter 6 is called Beth Finds the Palace Beautiful. Chapter 7 is Amy's Valley of Humiliation. Chapter 8 is Jo Meets Apollyon, who's a demon who kind of attacks Christian in Pilgrim's Progress. And chapter 9, Meg Goes to Vanity Fair.
Oh, there you go.
So
it's obviously
Alcott is not exactly. Yeah, it's in conversation with Pilgrim's Progress. And part of what's going on in those chapters, and especially in the first volume of the book, is that the girls are learning things about how they should spend their lives and what their kind of building up their moral
Right.
character, and as one did when one read Pilgrim's Progress. So, I mean, I guess I kind of like the Pilgrim's Progress just because that's an interesting little thing to be in conversation with in this book.
Well, I think all writers are in conversation with their back reading list, right?
Yeah.
Even if we're not aware of
back
it.
pages.
Yeah. Like my novel's in conversation with Daphne du Maurier, like I think overtly. But also, I would say even with like Isaac Dinesen, because it's got a Gothic element, and like just things that you have read or studied, or that you think about. Those things, even if you're not intentionally going to do it, those things are going to echo maybe in your fiction, even if they don't surface, so to speak.
Yeah.
And some of it's intentional, right? Obviously, this is intentional. She's naming chapters for it.
Yeah.
But I also think it's interesting when you look at your own creative writing to see what is kind of rising to the surface there.
Yeah.
Was she, you have to remind me, because this is where I did earlier British literature and then I did contemporary. So I have a big hole in my lit degree. Was she a contemporary of Dickens? Or a little later?
Yeah. No, I think Dickens, she would have been younger than Dickens, but
right.
But
so
they were contemporaries.
Yeah, so they were writing at the same time.
Yeah.
I also need to look up whether Laura Ingalls Wilder read Little Women, because that would have been a perfect book for her.
I think it would be very unusual if she didn't.
Well, they didn't have a lot of money for books. But she was a big reader, but they were places where it would have been hard to get hold of books. But even if she didn't read it as a kid, she probably read it later in life, I would imagine. I'll have to do some research on that. And then I also think what you mentioned about Simone de Beauvoir said that she was influenced by it.
Yeah, by Jo March particularly.
Right. But I think what's interesting to me about my conception of the novel, because I haven't read it, is that the March sisters are different from each other.
Yeah.
And they are all women.
Yeah.
Right. And that's my kind of feminism, is that, my belief in feminism is that you can be whatever kind of woman you want to be. Right.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be penalized because you want to be this kind of woman. But I also, think that that kind of feminism is the umbrella for men as well, right? I can be whatever kind of man I want to be, not the kind of man I am constrained to be by somebody else's idea of masculinity. And I think that's really interesting that de Beauvoir was influenced by it, because Jo March is that kind of tent pole, so to speak, like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm independent. I'm going to support myself.
Yeah.
But the other sisters are different from her.
Yeah.
Some of them are more conventional at the time, feminine. Yeah. And they're still, it's not like they're worse than Jo, right?
No.
They have their own, they're loved and valued, and they have their own paths.
As individuals.
Yeah.
And Jo particularly has problems with Amy, but Amy's not presented as, an evil character,
right.
or that she's wrong.
Right. They just they conflict because they are different from each other.
And they're sisters. But there's four of them. The oldest is Meg. She's beautiful. She's domestic.
Right.
She brings a little money into the family by acting as a kind of governess to a couple of children.
Okay. So in a conventional role.
Yeah.
I mean, women didn't make a lot of money, but if they were going to, that would be a role that they would play to make money.
She marries first. She is very conventional. She marries, has children.
But I just want to ask you, she's not constrained like by convention.
No.
This is what she wants for herself.
Yeah.
Okay.
But also, Alcott has this, and this is one of the things that separates this from other stories about young women or women who are protagonists. Alcott has this idea of the democratic marriage, she calls it, in which husband and wife are basically equal partners. They each contribute in their own way to the family. Not the traditional family idea in the 19th century at all. The husband is supposed to be in charge. But all of the sisters who get married end up with a democratic marriage of that sort.
Right, that's interesting.
You don't notice it so much reading it today, but reading it in 1868, this would have been a notable difference from typical books for girls.
Yeah, and I have heard about this somewhat, that we have this idea that men were in charge and women just, they followed what their husbands did. And I think there is a lot to that. But also, when they lived, and also thinking of Ma Ingalls, women had a kind of strength or power in the marriage because everything in the house they had, somebody in the household made, right? They didn't have money. They weren't Amazoning stuff, right?
Yeah.
Their clothes were made by, like for the Ingalls, Ma made all their clothes, right? Pa made their furniture, right? And so there's a kind of equity, even if there's lip service to Pa's in charge or Pa makes the decisions. Ma has power in that she is contributing economically to the family just as much as Pa. Even she's not making money, but she is making their life possible, right? Because she makes their clothes, she makes their food, she makes the home with them. Because everything they have, they bought hardly anything. And so I think that's interesting that she calls it this. Yeah. And makes it explicit.
Yeah, it is explicit here. There is a different. This novel takes place about the time that Laura Ingalls Wilder's books are set.
I think she's a little. I think they're set a little later, maybe. Well, 1870s.
Yeah. Okay. So
1880s.
But it's 1869.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
But
it's a very different part of the country.
Different part of the country and a different class of people.
Oh, yes.
The Marches had been fairly wealthy.
Well, and he's a minister, so he's educated. And
but they basically lost their fortune, and they're living in pretty...
it's very Austin.
Yeah.
Like they have a social position, but they don't have the economic resources to support the position.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
Because, you got to have a maid.
I mean, you gotta. What will the neighbors think?
Yeah.
You're doing your own laundry, Ma.
So Meg is there.
Yeah, okay. Meg, Joe, Beth, and Amy, right?
Yes,
okay.
That's the order. Joe is the second oldest. She's very much a tomboy. Mm-hmm. She wants to be a writer. She's quick-tempered. She's stubborn. She's all these things that women probably weren't supposed to be, but that's why everybody likes her the best.
All the readers, you mean?
All the readers like her the best.
Well, it's like the Ramona books where Beezus is perfect and everybody loves him because they're like, I'm like Ramona too, because everybody knows their own faults.
Yeah.
And they look at other people and think it's so easy for them to be good, right? Yeah. And they're like, Ramona, I see you. I am Ramona. And I think a lot of women, but also a lot of girls and also boys can relate to the idea that your older sibling seems better at being good than you do.
Yeah.
Or even that you don't want the same things that your older sibling wants and is rewarded for wanting.
Yeah. Joe is Louisa May Alcott.
Yeah.
This is a semi-autobiographical novel that's based on her and her own sisters.
Yeah.
And the one that really is the representative of her is Joe, the one who wants to be a writer.
Did she grow up with no brothers as well, or is this made differently?
She didn't have any brothers. She had a father who was, her father was not a minister, her father was a philosopher. Oh, well. Bronson Alcott, transcendentalist philosopher. And
I am familiar with that name.
She spent her childhood with Thoreau and Emerson.
Not reading them.
But actually having them over at the house. He means in the
room with them.
Yeah. And, Hawthorne and Longfellow would stop in every once in a while.
As they do.
And so she had this background.
Wow, that is really cool.
She did not want Joe to get married in the book. Her publisher insisted that she had to have Joe get married because that's what the heroines of novels did. And
Right. What if a girl is going to read this? The whole point of her life is to find not find a husband. Have a man choose to marry her.
Yeah. And that happens in the book. It was true that 93% of women in 19th century America got married.
Yep.
And that's what they expected. And that's what books for girls did.
Well, that was your economic security.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like you could just go out there and be a plumber.
Yeah. But in this book, Meg is really the only one who kind of thinks she'd like to get married. Joe doesn't. Amy doesn't. Beth never thinks she's going to get married. And it was the first novel of its kind in which the main goal was not to get them married. The main goal was that they had other aspirations.
Was exploring their lives, their own lives.
I mean, Beth is...
She too good to live?
From the beginning, too good to live. You know that she's too good to live.
Yep.
And she doesn't want... She's very, very shy. She doesn't want to go to school. She just wants to stay home.
With Marmee.
With her family and with Marmee. Everybody calls... It's spelled Marmee in the novel, and even in the movies versions, you hear them calling her Marmee. But remember, this is Concord, Massachusetts. Right near Harvard.
Oh, so it'd be Mommy.
So it's Mommy. I'm sure that's what was intended.
Interesting.
But
I've never heard that take.
Everybody says Marmee. Anyway, she wants to stay home with Marmee. She's very musical. She plays the piano.
She has a rich inner life, and she just wants to live it.
That's right.
Yeah.
But she does, at one point, she contracts scarlet fever from visiting some sick people in the neighborhood, which they do.
Because they're breed of Christianity. Yep.
Who no longer are wealthy, but they're still Christians.
Yeah.
Anyway, she catches scarlet fever. They send Amy off to live with Aunt March, who's the rich aunt, who they're hoping they're going to
will be a patron,
money.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Amy, they don't want Amy to get...
Right.
Joe has had scarlet fever, and so she's the one that ends up taking care of Beth while she's sick. And Beth, she doesn't die from scarlet fever, but she never really gets better, and she just kind of gradually fades away.
Declines.
Yeah.
Well, and that also would be, you talked about realism. This is going to be realistic that, this is before vaccines, right? I mean, people died from things that they wouldn't die of today because they couldn't treat them or prevent the illness.
But the way that Alcott presents her death, ultimately, she doesn't want us to see it as tragic. It's a terrible loss, and everybody feels it. But Beth says this: "I'm not like the rest of you. I never made any plans about what I'd do when I grew up. I never thought of being married, as you did. I couldn't seem to imagine myself anything but stupid little Beth, trotting about at home, of no use anywhere but there. I never wanted to go away, and the hard part now is leaving you all. I'm not afraid, but it seems as if I should be homesick for you, even in heaven."
That makes me think of that line. I think it's a head note on a poem I read. It said that the worst thing about death must be the first night.
Yeah.
When you're new and all alone.
So Joe really was the closest to Beth.
Well, sure, if she was taking care of her, too.
Yeah. And even before that, she was the closest to
Yeah.
Beth. Amy is the youngest. Amy is artistic. She wants to be an artist. So she's similar to Joe in
she has her own
that kind
pursuits.
of aspiration.
Yeah.
And she also is very kind of conscious of her position in society and wanting to be kind of upper class, which is why it turns out Aunt March likes her the best.
Amy?
Amy, yeah. Joe, at the beginning of the novel, as Meg is off taking care of her kids for some money to help the family, Joe is Aunt March's sort of companion and gets paid for that. But she and Aunt March are always kind of...
Because Aunt March has opinions on Joe.
Yeah, and what
she should be doing.
Yeah. But Amy ultimately is
seals the
Aunt
deal.
March's favorite.
She understood the brief and she nailed it.
And Amy ultimately gets married to... Well, I'm not going to tell you that.
Yeah, don't do it.
That one.
Don't spoil it.
That one will be a spoiler.
I mean, if you've seen the movies, you may know. But yes, let's leave some things for the readers. And for me, because I haven't read it yet.
But she gets married, and she decides to give up her artistic ambitions because she gets to go on this trip to Europe and to Italy.
Posh.
Because she kind of makes up to her aunts. And so they like her. And so she gets taken to Europe instead of Joe, which really makes Joe mad.
Right, because a writer needs to go to Europe.
Yeah. But Amy goes and she sees all these great works of art. And she has an interesting reaction to it, which is, and this is after she gets married that she tells people this. She says, Rome took all the vanity out of me. For after seeing the wonders there, I felt too insignificant to live, gave up all my foolish hopes in despair. Why should you with so much energy and talent? That's just why, because talent isn't genius and no amount of energy can make it so. I want to be great or nothing. I won't be a commonplace dauber, so I don't intend to try anymore.
Oh!
And that just doesn't seem real to me.
Well, it's a very fixed mindset. And the marches seem to be growth. They're learners, they're readers, philosophers, like Joe is a reader and a writer. Any writer doesn't start out brilliant. They work at it, right? Yeah. So for her, I mean, that makes me think that Alcott didn't like her.
Well, most people...
Because sometimes you don't like your characters.
Most people don't like her.
Yeah. Well, maybe Alcott didn't.
Well, maybe the sister that Amy was based on was a sister that Alcott didn't like. But I don't know if that's true, because I think it's a reader's reaction partly because she's the youngest and she's kind of a brat as she's growing up. Joe is always in conflict with her because they have similar kind of ambitions, I guess.
I wouldn't even say ambition, probably personalities.
You know,
sometimes you can be too alike.
Yeah. And there is one point where Amy is mad at Joe. This is when she's still probably 11 or 12 or something. And she takes the story that Joe has been working on to give her father when he comes home, and she burns it. And when Joe finds that out, she is ready to kill Amy.
This is before you had a backup and you could open your Word file and find it again. Exactly. Like there's one copy of it and
she's been writing it by hand.
Oh
the whole year.
God, that is such a younger sister thing to do.
It's a terrible thing to do. And to get back, Joe is going to go skating with the boy next door. Everybody who's ever seen a movie of Little Women, if you haven't read it, knows that Laurie is the boy next door.
Right.
Who's basically Joe's best friend.
Right.
He's the son of the rich guy next door. His name is Mr. Theodore Lawrence, which is clue number 2. But he's always called Laurie.
Right.
Because his last name is Lawrence. But the rich guy next door is very good to the March sisters, particularly Beth. He loves Beth, and he lets Beth come over and play
his piano. Oh, yeah. Nice.
And lets her do it by herself so that she doesn't get nervous about people being around, although he listens from the next room.
I love Beth. I guess everybody does.
Yeah, everybody does. And partly because that's who Joe loves the most.
Right.
Joe goes off with Laurie to go skating. Amy's really mad about being left behind. She goes running after them with her skates, and she starts skating on the river, and she goes through the ice. And so then Joe is like,
should I get her?
well, not quite that, but I think Lori is the one who saved her. But Joe's very ashamed of herself about how she acted.
Well, I mean,
Amy's, I think, ultimately pretty ashamed of herself.
The worst thing I ever did as a youngest was I told my brother what his Christmas present was because I knew he didn't want to know. So I basically ruined Christmas for him because I told him what his present was. I didn't burn his single copy of his major work.
But that reaction of Amy's just doesn't ring true to me. That's one of the.
I wonder if it's like, okay, I need some drama here at this point in the story, or I need some conflict, or if it's that Alcott didn't really understand her younger sisters very well, and maybe she couldn't write them as well because she didn't really understand them, or.
I think Amy's pretty well written, but I think that particular
it's just a
reaction,
weakness.
It might have been. I mean, that's coming near the end of the book. Alcott didn't want Joe to get married. Maybe she didn't want Amy to either, but she had to find some excuse for her to get married because the publisher wanted her to get married.
Yeah.
That might be what happened because actually, when Joe gets married. She gives up writing. So it's similar to what Amy does, and even more...
Well, it's wrenching.
Yeah, it's even more unrealistic, I think.
Yeah, because you can... Yeah.
And I think those are just things that the publisher wanted, and sometimes what the publisher wants isn't what makes the book better, it's just what makes it more marketable.
Well, it reminds me of... So I just... watched all of the Sex and the City, the movies, and then the new series, and Just Like That. And in Just Like That, Carrie's writing a book. It's a novel. It's a historical novel. I think it's set in the 1800s because that's when the house she's living in New York was built. So she writes, this is her first novel, and she's writing a book about the woman. That's what I did think that the writing that they read on the show was not very good. And I was sad because Carrie reads a poem that she writes, fictionally, for a wedding early in the series, the original series. And the poem is very good. And I'm like, who wrote that poem? Because that's good. Anyway, but her publisher, so Carrie is a widow because, spoiler, Big has died. And she is writing this novel about a woman who's kind of ending up on her own, right? And the publisher is like, I'm waiting for the last chapter. And Carrie's like, that's the last chapter. She's by herself. And the publisher's like, oh, you got to give women hope. And I really did like this line. I really thought that Sex and the City and Just Like That nailed it. Because the last line she's supposed to write an epilogue and she can't do it. And she's, doesn't want to do it. And then she finally writes it. And the last line is, the woman wasn't alone. She was on her own. And I thought that was really well handled, and that was exactly right. And you kind of wish, I guess, maybe that Jo could be on her own.
Yeah, I think Alcott wanted it that way.
Has somebody written a novel that's in conversation with this, in which Jo is on her own? Maybe we should do that. Oh,
well, there have actually been at least a dozen novels that have been inspired or by this or answers to it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of conversation going on with later books.
That's funny. Well, why might somebody not like this novel?
Well, you might not like the way it ends with the marriages, which seem to not come exactly out of it. Although one critic has written in a Pulitzer Prize-winning biography called Outcasts, the story of Louisa May Alcott and her father.
Ooh, I want to read that.
John Madison says that Little Women's enduring power is that not one of the March sisters gets what she once believed would make her happy.
Oh, interesting. So Meg doesn't get what she wanted.
Well, it's been pointed out that Meg is beautiful and dreams of being rich, but falls in love and marries a poor man.
Yeah.
It's Laurie's tutor, Mr. Brooke. Beth is shy and wants to grow old in her parents' home, but dies an early and heartbreaking death.
Well, she's as old as you can be.
Yeah. And Amy longs to be an accomplished artist, but she abandons her goals to get married. And then Jo, much to her readers' chagrin, gives up her writing career when she marries, I guess I won't tell you who.
Thank you. Don't tell us. But, I mean, I guess that's part of the realism of it, right? Is that it's not a fantasy ending where if you can be anything you want if you just try hard enough.
Yeah.
And if you're just pick me enough, as the TikTokers say, about like women who are pick me, right? Like, I'll be any kind of woman you want if you just love me.
Yeah.
And she wasn't doing that. She was bucking that at a time when that's not what books for girls were doing. They were saying, here's how to be a pick-me, a successful pick-me.
Yeah.
So, but also I think it's interesting, do they end up happy? Because I think a lot of times people want, boys and girls, think they want things when they're younger, and when they're older, they are happier than they ever thought they could be with something completely different.
Yeah, and that's really what happens with in the book, that everybody's happy. I mean, Beth isn't happy.
Well, maybe she's happy where she is.
As she says in that speech that I read, she's not afraid. She just is going to miss them. But the other three end up being happy, even though they didn't get what they thought they wanted.
Right. Yeah,
and that is one of the things that's realistic about the book.
Yeah, because we grow and we turn towards things that we didn't know existed, and we like them, right? And we look back. I mean, I think that all the time. Like, I would have never thought to picture the life I have, and yet every morning I wake up and I think, I'm so fortunate. I have so much more than I need, and I'm just so happy. You know, I mean, we all have problems. I have frustrations and struggles, but when I was a kid, I wouldn't have said, I wouldn't have outlined the life I had and said, that's the life. Because as a kid, you have a shallow, kind of broad perspective.
Yeah.
I want to be famous. I want to be rich. I want to be, and you don't realize that a lot of times happiness lies in the nuance.
Yeah. Or happiness lies in things that you never even imagined before.
Of course.
And that's kind of what happens here. The only downside of it, I think, is that they have to give up their dreams to get married.
Yeah.
When Alcott probably didn't even want them to get married.
Right. My grandmother was born in the 1890s, and she went to college, which was unusual. And she majored in Latin, and she was a Latin teacher, which she had to quit doing when she got married.
Yeah.
And, then one of her daughters was a languages major and was a translator. Like, you can see it kind of carrying through. And, I just think it's interesting that, and my grandmother had her college degree before my grandfather. And he was, he worked, obviously, somebody had to. But he finished his degree. My mother remembers him going to school in the summers to finish his degree. He was teaching, but he was a man, so he could teach on half a degree. And my grandmother, who had a degree, could not teach at all because she was married.
Because she was married, yeah. But in those days, you could get a teaching degree with a 2-year degree.
Well, I don't know the specifics of it, but he was finishing.
Back in those days.
He was finishing his bachelor's in the summers. But you know what I'm saying? Like, she was qualified and was not allowed to participate.
Yeah.
And that was my mother's mother. Like, it's not that long ago, Yeah. So I think that's interesting.
But there's two other things, I think, that people might not like about this book. And that kind of bugged me about the book. One of them is that it tends to be didactic. And that's the influence, I think, of, Pilgrim's Progress.
I was going to say probably not just the publisher, but also the time in which she lived and the things that she read herself.
Yeah, this was Alcott's own thing, I think, that Marmee, when it is episodic. And when something happens, that's a kind of a learning experience for one of the daughters, Marmee has to come in and tell her what the learning.
Oh, because it has to be spelled out in the book.
It has to be spelled out what you should have learned from this. For instance, at one point, she said, one of the earlier occurrences of this, "My child, the troubles and temptations of your life are beginning and maybe many, but you can overcome and outlive them if you learn to feel the strength and tenderness of your heavenly Father as you do that of your earthly one. The more you love and trust him, the nearer you will feel to him, and the less you will depend on human power and wisdom. His love and care never tire or change, can never be taken from you, but may become the source of lifelong peace, happiness, and strength. Believe this heartily, and go to God with all your little cares and hopes and sins and sorrows as freely and confidingly as you come to your mother." And she's got to do that every time something happens that they should learn something from.
I learned a great deal from my mom, and she never talked to me like that.
Well, Marmee likes to
Marmee
lecture.
gives a sermon or two.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's kind of annoying. The other thing was that Alcott doesn't seem to know how to finish the book. As you get toward the end,
does it keep ending?
you keep getting these chapters about things you don't really give a
like.
You
why are you
really
introducing
care about.
this? Yeah,
because the truth is everybody cares about Joe, but you get this chapter right near the end, this long chapter about the different personalities of Meg's twins. And you're like, what in the heck do
was
I
it
care
serialized?
about
Was
this?
she making money from serialization?
No. I mean, you'd expect that, but anyway.
Interesting.
So, it is the story of the four daughters, and I suppose she felt like she had to give as much time to the other three as she could, and so you get these things that are, and the movie versions of several of the movie versions of Little Women, and there were 7. There have been 7 of them. Will end when Joe gets proposed to.
Right.
The book
because
just
they recognize
keeps going on.
Yeah.
And what happened to Joe and her husband after they got married? They start this school for boys in the mansion that Aunt March left them. Nobody cares about that stuff, but she just keeps talking after the sale.
Yeah. Selling after the sale. So, what number do you rank this?
I'm putting it at number 64.
Oh, wow. That's low.
Well, because of those things that I mentioned.
It's got some flaws.
That are flaws, I think.
Okay.
So it's right after the big sleep and right before Turn of the Screw.
Oh, yeah. Well, everything should be ahead of James. All right. So.
But let me say one thing.
Yes.
There are some great movie versions of this.
Yes.
The one from the 30s with Katharine Hepburn. Katharine Hepburn is like the archetypal Joel. But the last one, the
Greta Gerwig
one,
oh, that's a masterpiece.
Is amazing. And part of the reason it's so amazing is that it's kind of meta-fictional. She takes Alcott's actual story of writing the book and dealing with her publisher and makes that part of the movie.
Yes, I remember that. That was really good. I need to rewatch that
The other
now.
thing about it that's so great is Amy, who's
Florence Pugh.
played by Florence Pugh, who really deserved an Academy Award.
Yeah, she was really good.
Is a very sympathetic character. It's the only movie where Amy's a very sympathetic character.
So Gerwig kind of saw into why is Amy like this and made her a full-fledged person. That's interesting. Yeah, that is really, really good. I think a lot of the Winona Ryder one, just because that's
a good one.
My era, and Claire Danes is Beth.
Claire Danes is Beth.
With that quivering chin.
Yeah.
We love the Claire Danes quivering chin. All right. Well.
Okay. So is it time for Chaos Reader?
I think so. Let me put my celebratory Thanksgiving wine down. All right. You've been waiting for it. Gerald R. Ford, An Honorable Life
ER.
by James Cannon. So I am, if you haven't listened before, or it's been a while, I guess, since I've had a presidential biography. I am on a quest to read a biography of each U.S. president in order. So I'm very excited because I'm up to presidents in my lifetime. And Ford is actually the first president I remember. I don't remember Nixon. But I remember seeing Ford on the news. I think, honestly, I don't think I'm remembering an SNL skit. I think I remember him falling on the news, like the news, because he fell.
Yeah, but then there were, every time they played him on... SNL, it was falling down.
Yeah, but I think I do remember seeing him on the news because I can remember sitting in the sunroom in our house in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, watching the news with my dad and seeing and being like, "That's the president," and he is falling. Anyway,
it's so weird because Ford was a great athlete.
I know. That's what I was just thinking when I was talking about that. I was like, he's so physical. But anyway, so we got this book at the Ford Library and Museum in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Shout out to Cynthia Drogue. She went with us there, I think, or met us afterwards. And that's another thing I like to do is visit presidential homes and museums and libraries. So I haven't even, I think I read the first couple paragraphs or something, but I've just picked that up and I'm excited about it because I read Nixon earlier this year. So ready for Ford. So that's Chaos Reader.
Okay.
All right. Well, we would like to thank you if you've made it this far for listening and joining us. Please, I know it's a broken record and every podcast tells you to do this, but it does really help us. And if you're on YouTube, if you can subscribe to the YouTube, that also helps us a lot. So, and just honestly, the best thing is to tell a book-loving friend that you found a book podcast that you like. And we will see you next week between the covers.